Hi,
Hi,
Stephanie.
Steph.
Hello.
It's been a long time no see. I don't think, trying to think the last time I
I
saw
know it's
you.
been a really busy semester here.
I bet. I bet. Things are going well.
Yeah, they're going well. We've got lots of extra sections of classes, and we're building a new lab.
Excellent. Very cool. Very cool. A new simulation lab.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Like a hybrid with VR or primarily mannequins or just VR or
A little bit of
XR.
everything. They're moving us out of our Burlington campus and moving a little further west into Elkhorn. So
Gotcha.
we're getting new skills labs, sim labs, and a room for VR.
Very cool. That is awesome.
Yeah, we're
I
super excited. It's supposed to open in August.
Excellent. Very cool.
one of my part-time well, Stephanie, you're at Gateway, right?
Yes.
Yeah. One of my part-time jobs now is I'm a tutor for EMS students at Gateway. So
I work with the paramedics all the time. I actually have a session tonight with them.
awesome.
They're
Yeah.
my favorite. Just don't tell the nurses.
I completely understand. They're my favorite too, and I will tell them. I mean, never mind.
I mean, I tell them all the time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
are you guys all in the same area?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Are you all in the same area?
Um,
Bill
we
and
Well, I'm in tutoring. Um, they haven't we I haven't done any VR with their EMS department at the moment. I mean, I'm open to it, but right now I just work in tutoring.
But I guess for
and I'm primarily just
geographic,
simulation.
Yeah, it's definitely a simulation.
cool. And geographically, we're what, about an hour and a half apart, 2 hours?
Yeah, if I'm going out to well, I'm also coming from Stoughton, so if I'm going out to Elkhorn, hour and 15 minutes.
Oh, an hour and 15. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that far from Burlington to Sturtevant.
Mm.
Yeah, I figured when we put this event on the calendar that we were going to have a challenging time getting anyone in education to join an event in the first week of May. But,
It
you
is
know, it
our
was,
first week of the semester.
yeah, it's either the first week or the last weeks, depending on where the semester falls. So it's like the worst possible time, but we didn't want to delay it too much farther. We're already pretty well into the second quarter here, so we seem like requisite. We'll record it, we'll share it, what we're gonna do today, and people will watch the video asynchronously, I'm sure. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Bill and Rick. I think they've been working together to prepare a bit of a demonstration of a simulation, which I think is great to be able to get an insight into how a simulation is actually run. So we'll be going through that. But this is a community of practice, really. Like I should just be keeping my mouth shut. I want to hear from the community. I'm a lot more interested in what anybody else has to say. So yeah, so we can keep it really open, really informal. Any questions, Stephanie, if you have anything you want to suggest or ideas or anything at all, we can keep this time pretty flexible and informal.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm excited to see what you got.
All right, take it away, guys.
well, and just like John had said, we want this to be a period where the community can actually drive what it is that we're doing and seeing. We want to be in the platform. We want to be doing things in the platform, whether that's how are you teaching in VR, how are you using the scenes or scenarios in VR, how you build in VR, what assets are available. I mean, you know, Acadicus gives you such a broad range of possibilities of what to do with it that we want to be able to focus and all of our energies during this period on showing what you can do with it. And so, Stephanie, if there's something that you've done or would like to see or want some guidance on, we'd be glad to jump to that. Or otherwise, Bill and I are kind of going to go forward with, kind of showing one of the scenes that he set up and how it might be used in a class. And in fact, it's interesting if you're talking about EMS. I'm sure this was designed specifically to be used in that manner.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I was actually just speaking with one of our paramedic instructors yesterday about potentially using VR as a way to make up missed HPS sessions.
Mhm.
Because they tend to run with crews of 3, and it's hard to get 3 to come in to help with just one who's missed a session.
Yeah. Yeah. And Stephanie, I could talk to, tutoring. I don't know how it would work, but I could talk to tutoring or John. And if it's something that you needed, like someone to join on, and it's a time frame that I have open, that would be a possibility. Not this John, sorry, the John Lister over at GTC, I should say that.
Mhm.
If that's something that would help, there's a possibility there. I did say to John that I would probably do, at some point, work on some VR stuff. But if you've already got it where you're doing it, then I'm there to help. If they, I don't, again, I don't know what tutoring would say about it. And John may say, well, we better put it on our budget instead of tutoring's budget. We could always work something like that out, but that way you would have an extra set of hands if need be. So
That would be amazing. And I'm sure he'd be open to a lot of it because he primarily uses our space in Burlington. So he's losing that next semester as well.
yeah. Yeah. Let's you and I just keep in touch. I'll put my email address in the chat here. And well, actually, it's you can probably find it pretty easily, but it's W. See if yeah, there we go. So I just put my GTC email in there. So if you want to get in touch with me, or you have thoughts, ideas, whatever it may be, let me know. Happy to help out.
Thank you so much. I will follow up with you after this meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So one of the things that we were going to sort of showcase. So the general agenda for today is, and will be, I think the agenda moving forward is we want to talk about something specific that people are doing. Okay. So not as much the overall, like, hey, I use it in medical simulation. Cool. But like, give me a thing that you do that you think sort of is your area of expertise or your thing that you just really like doing. You really like running this one simulation or whatever it may be, so that other people can see what you're doing. And then after that, we go into sort of a Q&A, right? And part of that Q&A today, what I'm going to ask is that everybody say one thing you're excited about when it comes to virtual reality, right? And so that includes everybody, John, Rick. One thing that you're excited about when it comes to virtual reality and your usage of virtual reality, your usage of Acadicus. And then one thing that you're also concerned about, right? That's kind of like, I'm a little worried about how this is going to go, or I might need some help with this. And the reason that we do that is that the community altogether can probably give some good input to everyone. So there might be somebody who's already, solved that problem. And they're like, well, what I did was, and you go, oh man, that's brilliant. I didn't even think about that. Right. So yeah, so that's one of the things that we'll do. So Rick and I are going to start off by doing a dynamic cardiology scenario. Now, don't focus as much on the dynamic cardiology and did Rick run every single bit right? Or did Bill run every single bit right? Rick and I were talking about this, and then I'm like, wait, Rick, you were a nurse. Okay, how long ago? And Rick's like, oh, So we're not necessarily worrying exactly about that. And I'm going to kind of help and guide Rick anyway through this. But the main thing is just to see how that simulation runs and to show off one of the things that I'm really excited about, which is our sequencers. The dynamic cardiology sequencer is awesome. The nursing, when it comes to nursing, the birthing scenario has a sequencer. There's a couple of sequencers. There's one for an opiate reaction, and there's one for a blood transfusion reaction. And then we also have sequencers for congestive heart failure and asthma. And it's, and COPD, congestive heart failure, asthma, and COPD. And the sequencers, if you're like me, like I feel like I'm, like octopus hands sometimes when I'm running these things in VR. I'm like all over the place, and then I'm trying to hit this and hit that. And what the sequencer did was it made me look less like a fool. Okay. And the sequencer brought it back to, we go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to step 4, and just made it a lot easier. And when it comes to dynamic cardiology, when I first started doing this back in 2020 with my students, dynamic cardiology, I was all over the place. Plus, I was trying to help them, right? I was acting as their assistant, and I was also operating this thing, and it just sometimes got out of hand. And I, sometimes I had to say, okay, hold on, wait just a second, and so, yeah, so that got a little out of hand. So when the sequencers came in, it was like, oh, wow, this is going to be really great. Because then the other thing I can do is I can go in and help out. You'll see me do that with Rick here. But then I can also just, I just hit the button for the next sequence, and that's it. And I don't have to like set all of the vitals and all of that. I just go next sequence, and then Rick and I are back to working. So I'm going to open up Acadicus. And I am very interested as to what Zoom is going to do once I say I'm going to use my headset. So we're going to find out here in a second.
Hands on here.
How are your controllers are red?
Oh, they're these little grips that I bought third party. So I
Oh,
can,
that's pretty cool.
yeah, it just wraps around my fingers.
Oh, like a Valve Index style.
Yeah, so I didn't, there's not this sense of I'm going to drop them.
Oh, that's pretty cool. So that works. Do you like how that works?
Yeah, because
happy
one
with
of the
it?
things we talked about what we like about VR, and obviously it's the immersion element, right? And sometimes when you're gripping something and you think to let go of it in VR, you're opening your hand. And I've dropped my controller before, right? And yeah, you don't want to bust these things up. So I got these little third-party straps, and yeah, they work real great. I love them.
That's cool. If you have a link to that, that would be great to share. I'd love to see what those.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Could start recommending them.
I'm going to go ahead and jump in to meet Bill.
All right, so just to test to make sure everybody can hear me okay. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. All right, I'm going to start off in, this is the disconcerting part of it. You all should be able to see can you all see my screen? You can see me.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So you're going to see from my point of view just for a minute here until Rick comes in. And actually, I'm going to reload the scene because we left something just hanging there. So let's reload the scene. So I'm going to show you from my point of view first, and that's it. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the BVM. We must have hit save with the BVM on his face. So that happens. What are you going to do? Okay. So I'm going to try to move my head as little as possible. Okay. I am going to bring up my menu. And I'm just going to show you my menu from my point of view, and then we're going to switch over to the Acadicams here in a second. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to bring up my sim manager, and I'm going to bring up my dynamic cardiology simulation sequencer. So this is all connected to the screen that you're seeing over here. And you can see, I'm going to reset the sequence, but you can see that I have it set currently for the unstable SVT to VFib to PEA to ROSC. Now, I have choices here. So I have sequence A, B, C, D, and E. And these are all based off of the American Heart Association and their sequences, okay? Everything is based off of the way that the American Heart Association is set up. It's not exactly the same. We had to, we made a couple of changes here and there, but for example, we want to do unstable bradycardia to PEA to asystole to ROSC. I'm just going to click on that. So there's our unstable bradycardia, PEA, asystole, ROSC. And once I hit begin sequence, you can see right now, it's not set for it. But if I hit begin sequence, there you go. There's your unstable brady. Okay. And then as I hit stage to next stage, right, there's PEA. There's asystole. And then there's your ROSC. So it's one button. That's it. And it sets everything for you. And you can go forward, you can go backward, you can go whichever way you want, okay? And then I'll just hit reset the sequence. So we'll kind of start it off. We're going to use the SVT, okay? So notice, obviously, it's not in SVT right now. We're going to hit begin sequence. And then real quick, I'm going to switch over to Acadicam 1. So there you go. So now you should be seeing Acadicam 1, correct?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Rick, are you in here? Oh, there he's coming in. So now you are seeing you'll probably see my menu a little bit, and that's okay. I'm going to bring my sim manager up. Okay. And again, if Rick and I are going to run this together, right? So this gets into that. Look, Bill, we don't have enough students to do this. We don't have where we can put 3 students together or something like that, and honestly, I want to run it with them as an instructor first to kind of get them through it, help them out a little bit there, right? And in order to do that, you can do it this way, right? When I was trying to do this with my students, this was just crazy, okay? All right, Rick, we're going to get started here. So we're going to hit reset sequence and begin sequence. And here we go. All right. Mr. Johnson. Oh, he doesn't look good, Rick.
No, he looks bad.
Yeah, you're pretty pale. So what's going on today?
You think we
sorry,
could
you
take
go
your
ahead.
shirt off, Bill?
Yeah, we should probably do that, shouldn't we? Mr. Johnson, we're just going to take your shirt off here, okay? So I will go quickly to Mr. Johnson. Let me just I didn't have that ready to go. Didn't expect you to say take the shirt off.
Sorry about that.
No, you're okay. No problem. There we go. Shirt's off. And I'm going to stand out of the way so that, we're not seeing as much. So Rick is going to kind of run this code and I'm going to stay out of the way. And I'll even act as Mr. Johnson. Now, normally when I try to do this, I try to have another person in that can, like help out, be the technician or be the voice. But, we don't always have that. So I just changed my accent a little bit to be Mr. Johnson. So I don't feel too good today. I felt really dizzy and I laid down on the floor. I don't feel good at all. So Rick, I'm a little concerned. His heart rate's pretty high.
Yeah, maybe I can maybe start with putting the.
Oh, yeah. Well, those we I gotcha. Now, what you can do too is y'all can create 3D recordings. Now, the 3D recording for putting the ECG on is not in here at the moment, but you can create a 3D recording of exactly what you're doing right here. And once you do that, then the student doesn't have to get down here and put all of the ECG leads on. The recording will do it. And I'll give you an example of that. Let's say we wanted somebody to start an IV. So can we get somebody in here to start an IV, please? Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Look at that. So you can see we did that as a recording. EMS, a recording. That person comes in, they start the IV. Wonderful. Okay, that IV is ready to go. And now they sort of pop out of the scene. And that was real easy. We just recorded a little 3D recording, and that's it. And then it was ready to go. And we did the 3D recording for ECG placement as well, which you can do. And of course, you can just leave the monitor at 0 if you want to. But we got some vitals because the EMTs got here first, and they got some vitals on them. So Rick, I'm a little concerned about his heart rate there. What do you think?
Yep.
210.
Looks
His
pretty-
blood pressure's terrible. Let's go ahead and put the pads on him.
Okay, and as I lift these pads up, I of course get the highlighted areas where I know I'm supposed to put them, and as I match them up, they snap into place.
I'm feeling a lot worse. Right. So now what I want to do is I'm going to send him into the next part, right? So we're going to notice that immediately he's gone into VFib.
Okay,
Yeah, Rick, he's in VFib. All right. Let's go ahead and start CPR so you can see my recording up here. Start CPR. There we go. We got somebody starting CPR. Let's get somebody ventilating him as well. So now I've got somebody ventilating him just by hitting those play buttons. Rick, you want to go ahead and charge to 200? All right, so Rick's going to charge up to 200 for us here. Okay, we are charging, continuing CPR. All right, let's go ahead and get off the chest. Let's see, are we shockable rhythm? We are. Go ahead and hit shock. And then let's get right back on the chest with CPR and BVM.
our rhythm's not changed yet.
Yeah, and while we're doing CPR, and if we are performing CPR and we hit performing CPR, then we'll see like the end tidal CO2 will change a little bit, so that it's showing that we are getting some CO2 at least from those compressions, right? And remember, on here you can always override. So, for example, if I go in and I go, "Hey, dynamic cardiology, I want to override some of those vitals." Okay, I'm going to pull my menu over a little bit so that you can see it. Let me get over by the camera there, and I'll pull my menu a little closer. So if I ever want to override it, then I just go ahead and do that. Oh, you can't see my. Oh, you're not seeing my.
Oh, the menus might be hidden, Bill.
My menu. Oh, okay, that's all right. But I can always override that. So I can always go into my simulation manager and override that. If I feel like, you know what, that end tidal CO2 wouldn't be 15. Maybe his downtime was a little longer. I could always go in. I'm going to change that end tidal CO2 to 10. Set values. Now you can see I've changed that end tidal CO2 to 10. Okay, so I can always override the sequencer, and that's key because we talked about that once before, right? We had the patient or the student that gave atropine instead of adenosine, and I had to go in and sort of change that. And you can still change that. You can still override that sequencer if you need to. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and give an milligram of epinephrine. And so you can see now I have IV med push. Here's my recording coming in, and he's going to go ahead and push that milligram of epinephrine there. Done. Milligram of epi on board.
In the bag, you actually do have labeled medications, epinephrine, that can be selected and picked up.
Yeah, and if you do have enough students and you want your students to just kind of do this on their own, like maybe Rick and I are doing it, or maybe you're going to have 3 students that are running a cardiac arrest, something like that. You can have one on monitor, you have one working compressions or something like that, and then you can have one doing medications as well. So you can absolutely do that. All right, looks like CPR timing is up. We're at our 2-minute check. All right. So now there are some differences in the way we do this. So I'm going to go ahead, Rick, let's go ahead and charge that monitor up. All right, so Rick's going to charge the monitor. Let's do 200 again. All right, we've got that monitor charging. Great. All right, we're going to go ahead and get off the chest. We're going to take a look. We still see VFib. Go ahead and shock. And back to CPR. And back to BVM. Now you can choose if you want your students to be able to select those. Maybe you have a student leader, or you have a team leader if you're doing pit crew, and they can obviously go and they can hit those start. I usually just do that as the instructor. So that's what I do. Okay. Okay, so now we want to move to the next part of the sequence. So I'm just going to go back to that dynamic cardiology sequencer. I'm going to hit stage 3. And we noticed, yeah, we do see a change. Now, I always tell my students, stay away from that unless that patient starts moving, talking, something like that. Stay away. Don't look yet. Okay, now we're going to time compress a little bit. Normally I wouldn't time compress, but we're going to go ahead and time compress. And we're going to say, okay, Rick, go ahead and charge that monitor up. We're going to go to 200 again. All right. All right, so we're going to stop CPR. Oh, okay, we do notice that we have an organized rhythm. So I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to dump that charge. Do we have a pulse? We do not have a pulse, so we're going to get back on CPR, back on BVM. Okay. We don't have a pulse with that, so that tells us we're in PEA. Now, again, how long you decide to keep this in here? Do you want maybe you want your students to give another milligram of epi, something like that? They're gonna, we got there's our recording giving another milligram of epi. Maybe you want them to give another milligram of epi. Okay. Maybe you want it so that you wanted to go a little longer with the DFib or with VFib, and you wanted them actually to give amiodarone. That's fine too. Because when you go to the next part of the sequence, well, it's up to you. It's up to you. You choose what's next. It's not based on like, oh, well, it's a 2-minute time frame or something like that. That's what makes it more realistic. So now I can just choose, all right, so now I'm going to go to return to spontaneous circulation. And what I'll say is like, he's moving, talking, fighting, right? And so we're going to stop CPR. We're going to check, do we have a pulse? We do have a pulse. We have a weak pulse, okay? And you can see everything has been preset. Now you look at his CO2, you go, wow, that's high. It's 52. Why? That's what I would ask my students. Well, because he just came out of cardiac arrest. So he's going to have a little buildup of carbonic acid in there. And that's what's going to cause him to have a little bit more, a little higher end tidal CO2 there, okay? Now, we're going to keep the ventilations going because he's tolerating them well. Or we can say, nope, he's not tolerating ventilation. He's fighting you on ventilation as well. And then we just stop ventilations, right? And there you go. So
Bill,
that's using that sequencer in a very quick motion to go through an entire ACLS sequence.
hey, Bill.
Yes, Rick.
Stephanie, I think, had a question about the
Oh.
meds. How visible are they? So
Yeah.
I'm going to grab something out of the bag and I'm going to come up to the camera and
Yeah.
let's see if that, I don't know how that's coming through. Let me look at my screen.
Yeah, that looks great, actually.
That's much better than I was anticipating.
Yeah.
That's a big issue that we're noticing our students are having both in nursing and the paramedic world is doing the drug calculations. So the clear labels are really important for them.
Yeah, and make sure, I've noticed with some of the nursing students, they'll talk about, oh man, this is really, I can't even see this thing. I can't. First of all, don't bring it all the way up to your face because then it actually does blur because you're looking through 2 eyes and not one. So the closer you bring it to your face, the more you're looking through 1 eye. You almost have to close 1 eye and do that. The other thing is make sure that your headset is adjusted. If your headset is down or your headset is up too high, then when you're looking at it, it's like looking through a really strong pair of reading glasses. And it doesn't look great. So, and you can even try that with your headset. Like when you move your headset down a little bit, you'll notice how the borders of it will start to get a little blurry. So I always say, adjust your headset a little bit, make sure that your headset's adjusted, make sure it's on tight enough, those kind of things, so that they can see it well. We get that complaint of, well, I can't read this. And I get a lot of them. Rick, can you hand me one of those meds? Thank you, sir. I'll get a lot of them that'll do this where they'll bring it like way up to their face and they're like, I can't read that. I'm like, no, definitely not, because you'd have to be reading it through 1 eye. So you got to bring it just a little bit away and you can see it really well. Amiodarone, right? 150 milligrams per 3 milliliter, right? Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have any question, Stephanie, anybody, if you have any questions, go ahead and shout out because I can definitely hear you. So I'm going to hop over to my little teaching area over here. So let me pull my menu back and I'm going to bring up my sim manager and get Acadicam number 1, or actually on. We'll turn Acadicam 1 off and we'll turn Acadicam, the original Acadicam. We'll turn that on. So now you should be seeing a little teaching area, right?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this camera. I'm going to bring it up a little closer and we're going to look at this ECG to start off with. Okay. So this was created, John, correct me if I'm wrong, this was created by Cochise College?
That is correct.
Awesome.
Melissa
And
Ashling.
And I obviously do not work for Cochise, but I can use what's in here because I subscribe to Acadicus. So there's two parts to this. One is the ECG part, and then the other is the way it looks on the heart. And then I don't know. I always love having this heart everywhere. Okay. But I'll also then translate what's going on here, here into what's going on here and what's going on here. Right. My students always had the hardest time with heart blocks. And what I used to do is I used to talk about it in terms of taking out the garbage. Right. So my wife and I, when we got married, we've been married 17 years now. When we got married, I always say early on in the marriage, she'd tell me to take out the garbage. I'd take out the garbage, no problem, right? So take out the garbage, garbage goes out. Take out the garbage, garbage goes out. Well, that's normal sinus rhythm, okay? So then when I want to change this, so now I've got it, right now I've got it in normal sinus. But I want to put it in first degree. So now my wife and I have been married for about 2 years, maybe 3. And she says, hey, it's time to take out the garbage. And I do it every single time, but just a little bit slower every single time. I'm starting to not really listen so much and all of that. And what I would do when I was teaching this is I'd actually have a garbage bag in here, pick it up and be like, oh, take out the garbage. So I'd do it every single time, no fail. I would do it every single time. However, it would be a little bit slower each and every time. And that's our first degree. When we talk about our second degree type 1, right? She would say, do it. I'd do it. She'd say, do it. I'd kind of slow down doing it. And then one time I'd just forget completely. Okay. So it'd be do it. And then I'd do it. And then I'd kind of do it and then do it. And then I kind of a little slower this time. And then I do it. And then finally, the last time she'd say, do it. And nothing would happen. I'd sit there staring at the wall or something like that. Right. Okay. So that's our second degree type 1. Our second degree type 2 would be do it, I'd do it, do it. Yeah, I'd forget there. Do it. I'd still forget. Do it again. Oh, there I do it. Okay. So there was still some correlation, but half the time I'd take it out, half the time I'd just stand there staring and forget what I was supposed to do altogether. Okay. And that's our second degree type 2. When I'd go into third degree, she's talking about garbage. I'm taking it out when it stinks up the house. No communication between us whatsoever. Been married 15 years or whatever. No communication whatsoever between the two of us. And that was the way that I would teach it. Now I can still do that, still do it my way. But now I've got that graphic explanation of how it works and why it works the way it works. Because, yeah, I can tell my students, hey, this is what it does, but to really, really make them understand it is the why, okay? And so we would talk about, here's our SA node, right? And here's up here is our SA node way up here. And then there's our AV node, where these are all labeled. There's our atrioventricular bundle, or you call it the bundle of His. There's the bundle branches down here. There's our Purkinje or fascicular branches, okay? And now with every time, right now you can see it's in third degree, but if I put it in sinus rhythm, here it is, right? Fire makes its way through, makes its way to the ventricles, depolarizes ventricles, no problem, okay? Then if I want, I'm going to put it in second degree type 1 because that's more interesting. So there's our second degree type 1, right? So it fires, goes through, a little slower going through the AV node, even slower going through the AV node, and then finally, boom, full block. Okay. So I would get hey, there it is. Look, goes through, no problem. Next one, going to go through a little slower. There it is. A little slower on the next one. Oh, no, this one was a complete block. Okay. So that's our second degree type 1. And then I can graphically show our second degree type 2. Same way, right? So here it is. Fires, blocked. So it doesn't go through that time. Fires, blocked, doesn't go through that time. Fires, oh, there it went through that time. Fires, nope, got blocked again. Fires, blocked again. Well, wow, that patient's heart rate would be really, really slow, right? And then we can talk third degree. Third degree is fires, blocked at the AV node, fires blocked at the AV node, or what we call a complete heart block. And then you can see the graphic here just showing eventually the ventricles do fire. Okay. And they do that because they're the last resort. They're taking over in that last resort there. Right. Cool. And then what I used to do, and I'll move this camera one more time, is I would then, because we need to talk mechanical, we would look at this heart. Now, this heart doesn't change into those rhythms. But what this heart can tell us is if the ventricles themselves were pumping and nothing else up here, like the atria weren't pumping, how much of a decrease of blood flow are we going to see? Okay. And then, of course, we need to talk structurally. Where is this going to? This is the aortic valve, which is going out to the aorta, right? And that's coming from that's the pulmonic valve, right? So there's tricuspid, there's pulmonic. So that's the pulmonic valve going out to our lungs. And then back over here, we have this coming back, the mitral valve right over there, and that's filling back over here. So what's happening now is the blood flow going or coming back from the lungs is getting stopped up in here because this isn't moving as fast and getting it out as well. And so that's now backflowing into the lungs. And so I would do that too by putting up lungs here. That's the nice thing about it is I can change it. I can go, well, I want some lungs. So I take the lungs and put the lungs here, make the lungs just as big as the heart. And then we can kind of see how that backup would then be happening in terms of the actual mechanical function now of the heart as well. Cool.
Yeah, cool.
Right on. All right, I'm going to come back to Zoom. I think, well, actually, is there any questions about anything that's in the room? Good there. All right, I'm going to come back to Zoom here. Probably have to change my microphone. All right, there's my Cisco desk microphone. Get our speakers back. Looks like there's something how's the clear? Oh, got it. You had already asked that question.
Yeah, I think we were able to address that one. And that's one of the things I really like too, is that you can address so many things real time inside of the Acadicus and VR.
Yeah, you know, when we first, I mean, Carly first came to me with VR, and it was Acadicus, and I was pretty well sold. The looking around at other products, because I did my due diligence and like, okay, what other products are there out there for this? The main thing was that I'm not saying I'm a control freak, but I like to have choices, and I like to be able to do. And the other thing is I like to be able to use my scenarios. Like, we have great scenarios in Acadicus that you can use. But like, I wanted to use my scenarios, especially in the early days when nobody else was doing that. Nobody else was allowing you to bring your own scenario in. But, you know, when we started with this back in 2019, 2020, I said, well, I have a dynamic cardiology scenario. Can I just use that? And I was like, yeah, we can do that. We can set it up that way. You know, we can have all of the stuff in there that we need, and then we can go through the dynamic cardiology scenario. So that was the real major benefit for me, is that I could make those changes that I wanted to make. So right on. So we have about 20 minutes. So I'm going to start it off with things that I am excited about in Acadicus, in virtual reality, and then what concerns me as well. So one of the things I'm extremely excited about, we just had nursing in today, they were doing a simulation, is the expansion of our nursing program in terms of virtual reality. We have some amazing leaders in our nursing program, and they have really accepted virtual reality as an extremely useful and valuable tool. And so that's, I can't say enough about them. Melissa Surway, Jonathan Milton was just in here. Katie Shallgren has been doing some great work. Nikki's been doing some great work as well. I forgot Nikki's last name right now. I'm so sorry. But the level of acceptance has just been great. And then the thing that concerns me is, as you can see, I got quite a bit of stuff that I have to run around here. And right now, I'm the guy. So what? So one of the things that concerns me is I'm doing a lot of it on my own. Obviously, when we do nursing sim, I have the nursing faculty sitting right next to me, so they can kind of run some of that. But I'm doing a lot of it on my own, and we serve 20 programs at the college. And we just picked up our 19th and 20th, which is the women's basketball team and then the men's and women's soccer teams. So we are serving a lot of programs here at the college. And so my ability to keep up with it is something that's always concerning. However, it's a great problem to have. So I'm very blessed and very happy about that. So John, I'm gonna pass it over to you, and then you can pass it off to the next person.
Well, I'm pretty excited about the possibility of cross-organization collaboration. It's something that I've been talking a lot about in all of our Simulation Pulse lives on Friday afternoon, and something I think about a lot. I think it's, it's enough. We've done a lot of effort in the past 5 years to just educate people about the value of virtual simulation. We've seen implementations, we've seen success stories, we've seen published research, we've sort of like, I feel like that ship has sailed. Like that, I think the market pretty much understands that, but we're still, in my opinion, simulating simulation. And that's fine, because we need a point of reference that we can build on and say, okay, cool, we can do the similar things that what we're doing with the mannequins, and we can still emphasize and prioritize use of the mannequins, but we can extend that into the virtual environment and get value out of it. But now that we're in this virtual world, and if we bring that into the sort of like the current frame and think about what's next, it's breaking down the barriers geographically between organizations, interdisciplinary between disciplines, spanning, just kind of branching out and starting to do things that were never possible before. And I think that's what I'm most excited about. My biggest concern is I still see a lot of people who have not yet tried high fidelity VR. They just haven't put on a headset yet. And there's too many people, in my opinion, that are still stuck in the idea of, I tried a cardboard 9 years ago and it was a roller coaster and it made me sick. And so therefore, always VR makes me sick. And it's like, well, believe it or not, in the past 9 years, this has come a long ways. It's advanced pretty rapidly, and now at this point, it's very comfortable. We're learning a lot about how to increase that comfort. The headsets are only getting higher frame rates and better resolution that continue to eliminate that. But it's more than just the motion sickness. It's about putting that headset on, and you just, we all know it because we're on the inside track. But like when you put the headset on and people see it, and they have that whoa, that aha moment. We need that in order for this to really take off and get the efficacy that we know is possible, we need more people to have that experience. So I think that's my concern, is just getting people in headsets is number one priority for me.
I had a nursing student today say wow so loud that the rest of the nursing students were like, whoa, 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 whoa. It was really cool. So.
Absolutely.
And Rick, yeah, we'll go to you, Rick.
Well, I'm going to ride that because I'm fortunate in that I get to work with kind of all of our new onboarded organizations. And like just this past week, I was working with a college in Georgia, and the instructor had brought in 3 of her students to kind of walk them through the paces and get their feedback. And I get to experience a lot of that. Wow. Like, what's going on? How is this possible? I mean, and then we went in with Millie in the head to toe assessment, and they were just, oh, okay, blood pressure cuff, got it, and stethoscope, got it. Oh yeah, okay, I can use this pen light on the eye. They're just blown away with the things that they can do and what's been able to be achieved in VR. And to me, that translates into that improved training capability, right? That education, that stuff sticks with them. right? And I always harken back to, man, I wish I had this when we were in school, Bill, and I think about the things that I had to do that were on the job training, actual hands-on with the, patients that I was learning with versus having gotten to go through it once, in a VR scenario. What a difference that would make.
Yeah.
And, it's just such a powerful, powerful medium. And I think, again, those of us who are in headsets every day, it's kind of easy to forget, right? It becomes, routines like turning on your computer, right? I put my headset on and I'm in there doing things. But boy, you get with those new people who are just doing it, and you can tell it's having an impact. It's making a difference, and that's what excites me.
Yeah.
I think the thing that is, I guess, most worrisome, if you would, and Bill, you alluded to this, is still the management and support that goes with it, right? There's this level of complexity that's still there with kind of connecting all the pieces together. I mean, once it's done, it's kind of done, but I know I spend more than time than I'd like to working with folks, just trying to get everything kind of working. But with that goes with what Jon says, you get so much more power and fidelity having the graphics and the CPU of the PC or the laptop. So
Yeah,
I'm
both
all
of
on
the
that.
both of the nursing faculty today said the same thing that you just said, Rick, where they said, oh, I wish we had this when I was in school. And
Yep.
the nursing students came in here like really super excited, ready to go, and they're like, "This is great." And and to address too the concerns of like motion sickness and those kind of things. We just don't have it. We just don't
Yeah.
like. I shouldn't say we don't ever. Out of the now hundreds of students that I put in there, I've had only 2 that have said I had to take it off. And one of them wasn't even in Acadicus. The other one was like super, super sensitive. But it like, and I think there was a little bit of like suggestive thought there too, where an instructor had said something about it. So there's a little bit there, but there will be maybe a couple of people here out of, maybe a few hundred that'll go, okay, I'm going to have a hard time. What bothers me is when they walk in the door saying, "Oh, well, I get motion sick and I can't do VR," and that gets me. I'm with you there, Jon. But yeah, Rick, excellent points. Definitely. Stephanie, I'll come to you.
I think what I'm most excited about with VR is just the limitless possibilities. I swear, every time I turn around, there's something new that's being designed. I told you guys just yesterday, I was speaking with an instructor about how we needed an EMS sim so that we could bring in students one-on-one to work on things if they miss their scenario. And what do I find today? Bill and Rick demonstrating the exact sort of scenario that we were talking about yesterday. I think the thing that's a little bit concerning for me about VR, at least at my institution, is I'm kind of a one-person show. It's just me as far as technology or the teching of the side of things, and I've got one faculty member. And if I could get more faculty trained on how to do the tech portion of it, I think it'd be utilized so much more frequently.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I'm starting a training program now for my faculty because yeah, it's getting to that point where, we're expanding to our Reedsburg and Watertown. And so now, like, I can't be in all of those places at once. I just can't. And so I'm going to need some. And I had one of the faculty members that came in today, Melissa, had identified her as one that she was like, "Oh, she's going to like this." And she came in and she left with this like ear to ear smile asking, "Okay, when's the training? When are we doing this? Because I love this and I want to be involved." And I'm like, very soon, we're going to we're going to start doing some training for it. So,
And it's such intuitive technology. It's very easy to use. In a lot of cases, it's more simplistic than the simulators that we have and those softwares. It's just sometimes it's a struggle to get people to learn new things.
it's so funny because she said that as well today. Like, y'all are repeating everything that these 2 faculty members and students just said today. she said, oh, well, that was an easier sim manager. Like the sim manager on some of the mannequins, you have a PhD to know how to run that thing. And then she also said, what I liked about this was that I knew where it was at, right? In the sequence and all of that. I knew exactly where it was at. I knew what I needed to change. Sometimes with those mannequin simulators, it gets ahead of me, or it's like, why did it do that? I don't need it to do, well, hold on. And then you try to go back and you're like, how do I do that? And you're in the middle of a simulation. So yeah, I'm with you. I love it. Great answers. Sean's like, I don't
Hello.
know if Madison College gives me a whole bunch more stuff. Anyway, sorry, Sean, I don't want to speak for you. Go for it.
What are you excited about, Sean, with VR?
Oh,
Yeah, that's a pretty big question, I guess.
Yeah.
I think once we get into more kind of feedback, whether it's improvements with the haptic feedback or other like smells and other touches, um, that's going to really fill in the large gap that VR started with. And that's we've kind of found the place where VR works well, but a lot of the you know, haptics with hands are really developing right now, and so kind of excited about that area. Let's see what technologies come out and how easy they are to integrate with the different headsets and software. So I feel like there's a lot of opportunity there with I guess with AR too. Kind of all mixing together because you can almost like all the headsets these days kind of are XR, which have both VR and AR, and I can imagine being able to kind of go in between, AR into VR, all in the same scenario or the same simulation, just depending on the context, where you can kind of be in the moment and then you can jump in back to reality with other people and talk in person to kind of have that
yeah, I agree.
unique experience that can't be done otherwise.
Yeah. What are you feeling most concerned about?
Yeah, I think accessibility is one of the concerns for VR. I mean, it's visual, one thing. So that leaves out a lot of folks that have visual impairment. And that goes with some of the other input devices. They also require or rely on people to have hands generally. But there's some techniques that are being generated or created now for mapping the hands, and perhaps they could do something even further to extrapolate. If you don't have hands, they could extrapolate where your hands might be and be able to still interface using all the cameras that they have now on a lot of the devices. So the accessibility is definitely one of those concerns.
This is why I like hearing from everybody, because, I'm always talking about like, what I can do with nursing or what I can do with EMS or, this patient or this medication thing. And Sean's like, accessibility. And I was like, oh yeah, that's why I like hearing from everybody, because they'll come up with things you didn't even really think about. And yeah, that's one of the issues that we have. And actually on that note, I did a pretty interesting experiment, so to speak. He was okay with being called an experiment. One of our staff members in the Student Achievement Center, he has one eye, only one eye that functions correctly. And he walked in and he said, "Am I going to get anything out of this? Like, is this going to be interesting to me at all?" Like, because he goes, "There's two eyes in there, right? And I only have one functioning eye. So like, is this going to make any difference to me?" And I said, yeah, I think it will. But, I was like, "Can we try it?" And he's like, yeah. So he made an appointment and he actually came in. He was right in this one here. And I was over here and we went in together and I brought him into our Madison College digital twin. And he stood there and he went, whoa, okay, hold on. This is really cool. I think he was thinking of the Google Cardboard as well, because you're not going to get much out of that, I would think. And he's like, no, 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 I can see the depth. I can pick things up. I can, like, and I can do it with my brain. Like, I can do it, close one eye and try, but my brain is still trained that I have that depth perception, but he doesn't. And that's what I wanted to see. And he's like, okay, this is really good. All right, I'm a math instructor and I want to do something in VR for physics. So now I guess we could kind of say that might wind up being our 21st program that comes on board. Because he was coming up with these great ideas and I'm like, oh, this is wonderful. I love this. So yeah, in speaking of accessibility, I just thought, what an interesting use case. And I just needed to see, like, is it going to be good for you or not? Let's check it out. And he's like, this is amazing. Are you kidding? He goes, this is great. I love this. So the answer there was yes.
Yeah, even on the accessibility side, kind of flipping it around a little bit, you can simulate a lot of different accessibility attributes, I guess is the way I can explain it. For like someone with that has an eye condition where they can't see in the middle of their eye, like you can simulate that pretty well in VR with the headset. So almost like that kind of understanding how folks go through life with their accessibility
I love it.
I guess issues or just parts of their life, and that could be a different type of training or simulation.
Yeah.
Too.
We used to do a training called GEMS for elderly people. And within that was, we would have the students put on gloves and then try to pick up pills and stuff like that. And then we'd have them put on some glasses that had a little circle of, like cataracts sort of look in the middle. We had them do, like, we could do that. We could simulate that in virtual reality, not even necessarily thinking of what can we do for people with disabilities, but how can we train others to be more understanding of those disabilities? That's brilliant, man.
There's another one, like you can put a UX designer, maybe that they're human centric, and they have to design a street or sidewalk or something. You can put them in as a person in a wheelchair, and they have to move around in VR with only the wheelchair, and they'll quickly discover where the flaws are in that the current situation of the street, of where they have to go to get to a ramp, or is there a ramp or whatnot like that. So it gives that perspective shift that's hard to teach otherwise.
Yeah, man, I love it. It gives me another thing to name that I'm excited about. That's cool. Again, this is why we want to hear from everybody, because there's some wonderful ideas out there. So
yeah, I'm hoping that we can continue to grow this meeting, because again, it's the intent is to share across the community and grow that sharing, and there's this capacity to also, move scenes and scenarios back and forth amongst people. Jon, talked about being able to share expertise across, geographic areas. Well, we can do that, if Bill's looking for a certain scene, or Stephanie's already built it, it'd be great if, again, we have these community meetings and Bill goes, boy, I really want to, have a scene at a trauma center, and Stephanie goes, oh, we're doing that. Why don't I send that to you, Bill? And we can do that, right? We can share whole scenes and scenarios that can go across organizations. And that's where I think it's really powerful.
Yeah.
That sense of community.
I love it. Well, we are at the top of the hour.
Yep.
Yeah, I just want to make sure if anybody else has any either questions, anything they want to say. I know Jon just unmuted, so I'm sure Jon's going to want to say something, but I just want to make sure that I shut up, because that doesn't always happen.
Yeah, that sounds great. I've actually got to jump to another call, but I appreciate everything. Great to see everybody, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Jon.
Jon.
Right,
Yeah.
bye.
Well, Stephanie, thanks for coming. Sean, thanks for jumping on.
Thank you.
Definitely. Yeah, Stephanie, I look forward to hearing from you and seeing how we can work together on stuff as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll reach out to you and we can rope Jason in and have a conversation later.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
All right,
Right.
Bill,
Rick?
we'll start scheming for the next one.
Sounds good. Hey, Sean, thanks a
Yeah.
lot, man. You
Yeah, it's
really,
great to
you
sit
really,
on
really
this.
gave me some great things to think about there.
Cool. And you guys also
Yeah.
did a great job. It's good to listen in.
Hey,
Awesome.
thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Bye-bye.